Wonderful. Well, good morning, everyone. And what Carly did not mention is the added surprise of a snowstorm, a bit of a snowstorm during Halloween. And some of us can hearken back to the days of that 1991 storm. So it wasn't anywhere near that exciting, but you know, the gobs of children that came through my area, they were unfazed. They were like, I'm here. I don't care if it's windy. I don't care if it's rainy. I'm all in. And so that was super fun to be part of that. So anyway, welcome. Yes, this is our fall kickoff. Yesterday we met with a number of people. Today we'll meet with this group, which is very exciting. And we're going to get underway. We have a lot to discuss. So the first thing we typically do is we have some introductions. And so we would like you to, just simply indicate your first and last name, your organization that you're part of, and your role. And if you are new to the group, please also indicate that you're new. And we're delighted, of course, to always have new people join us. So please let us know about that. And if you are new to this group, we want to make sure you realize that there are some things about history that Lesley is going to kind of speak to during her section. And so while it might be a little confusing at first to kind of hear everyone sharing about some things and what have you, we can kind of catch you up a little bit about what came before this, so that you have a more complete picture. The other thing I'd offer is at the end today, if you would like to stick around at the end of the meeting, we can stay on with you a bit and answer any additional questions you might have. So we're happy to do that. All right. So the other thing that we want to get to is, are there any folks in today's meeting that are serving on the faculty, Mid-State faculty work groups for CoReq or the steering committee? If you could raise your hand or indicate in chat, because if you are here, we would love to hear from you a bit further in the agenda about what that has been like for you. All right. So we want to make sure we have a sense of if you're in a faculty work group or are on the steering committee, so we can carve up just a little time for you to share some information if you're willing to do that. So with that, let's see, how's the chat responses coming in? Good job out there. I am new this year. Katie, welcome. We appreciate that. I'm just sort of scanning here quickly. I am on the Mid-State DevEd Steering Committee. All right, Matt. So we'll make sure that we get a little bit of time with you if you're okay with that. Matt, you're also new to this group. Wonderful. Appreciate that. All right. So I think we have a pretty good sense of where we're at. And so Lesley, here's the overview. And I'm going to quickly introduce myself. Then I think, Lesley, when you get to your portion, maybe that's best for you to introduce yourself then. Would that be okay? That's great. So I'm Russ Fraenkel. I'm a co-facilitator along with Lesley. Been involved with this particular effort. This is our 5th year. It originated in the Northwest region of the state. And we're delighted for their support. And then it became crystal clear to us that it was something that had statewide appeal. And so this Affinity group started there. Kind of became statewide after a few, maybe into the 2nd to 3rd year. All right. I'm a community education guy. I go way back to 1979. Been involved with adult education throughout that entire process. And then in the latter part of my career, I spent 12 years with the Minnesota State System working in an IT center of excellence. And so I have a little sense of what goes on in the system, and Lesley and I compare some notes on that, although she's much more steeped in that given her role in the Minnesota state system. So we're going to move on now to this next portion, and that is a look at the day. And here's what we have. I'm not going to read it to you. I just want to give you a sense of where we're going. And so, for instance, that piece I said about DevEd Steering Committee, Faculty CoReq Work Group, you'll see that's kind of pinched into the middle, that 10 minutes. And so we'll be hearing more about that then. But we have an ambitious schedule, so we're going to get after it. The next thing you're going to see that we're going to be talking about is we are looking for your input on seeking information for a draft that we have put together of partnerships that are either emerging or in the conversation stage or are more deeply involved in CoReq partnering. And so we're going to pull that draft up. And what we're interested in from you is we're going to kind of scroll up and down with this a bit so you can see and look for your home base, right? Your particular program, the college you maybe are part of, the ABE program you're part of. And what we're looking to do is to make sure we identify all of the existing partnerships at whatever level they may exist. And so if you don't see your entity on there, on that list in chat, please sort of identify that and tell us more about what is missing. If you see something on there that's inaccurate for your partnership, that's not complete, let us know that as well. If you see something on there in which it appears like a partnership is happening and it isn't happening, we need to know about that too. And so we'll just go ahead, Lesley.
I believe this is put to the Google Drive. Carly, I forgot to mention that.
Oh, yes. Yes.
That we're looking to you to maybe post some links. Otherwise, I can get it as well. So I'm sharing, though. That's the only reason. Yeah, no, I don't want to do that. So, but we'll get the link there in case anyone wants to see it, and then
look
send
a little
us something
deeper
afterwards.
Right. That would be great. At any point in time today, if you've had your chance to review this list and you have some information, or you can drop a message to me or Lesley, and we're happy to make sure we just get this as accurate as possible. That's our goal. Okay, so I'm just sort of watching my clock here. I think we're doing relatively well. The one thing I would now get to, let's see. I guess I need to go back just a bit. And we do have a couple of new people here, and I think it would be great if you could come forward and let us know, just introduce yourself. So we have sort of a more personal look in at who has joined our group. So if you're new to the group, please unmute yourself, come on camera, and just tell us a little bit more about yourself. Don't be bashful. Katie?
Hi, I'm Katie. This is my first year working with ABE. I'm in Austin, Minnesota, and I'm in the CoReq math courses for fundamentals of statistics and college algebra.
Great. And you are doing that with which college?
With Riverland Community College.
Riverland. Thank you.
Document, it said Rochester area.
Oh, yeah. Got it. So that needs to be changed.
Well, Rochester could be, because there's RCTC in Rochester as well.
Okay, got it.
But I'm with Austin Adult.
Okay, thanks, Katie. Well, welcome. Great to have you, and thank you for that clarification, and wonderful to hear you've got something underway with Riverland. That's fantastic. Let's see, was it Matt? Okay. See if I can find all the, looks like Darcy is on. Hi, Darcy.
Hi, how are you?
Good, and you?
Good. I'm Darcy Schausch. I'm at the ABE program in Apple Valley, Egan, and Rosemount, and
Yes.
I'm working in a study table that's at DCT at Dakota County Technical College. And then previously I've taught a TEAS class there.
Oh, wonderful. And tease it for our audience is, please explain that.
It's an exam that's used as an entrance to get into the nursing program.
Ah, yes, of course. Thank you, Darcy, and welcome. My sister's name, I remember you. I'll remember you forever. It's fantastic. All right, so we had one other person, I believe it was, that indicated.
Yeah, it's Matt Dempsey.
Yeah, Matt. What are you doing, Matt? Could you?
Hello, everyone. Yep, my name's Matt Dempsey. My first job is teaching mathematics at Normandale Community College. Been doing that since 2001, so long time there. But currently serving as the vice president for the two-year college faculty affiliate with Education Minnesota, MSCF, and happen to be on the DevEd steering committee, and actually I worked to co-chair that with Anthony Miller. So I
Oh,
was
wonderful.
got invited into this and thought, well, it's probably a good place to come in and listen to see what's going on. Have worked with Lesley many, many years ago, so don't listen to anything she says about me.
Oh man. Well, Matt, you're just a bonus for us to have involved today. So welcome. Thank you. With all of your connections, we're really excited to have you join us. All right.
Looking to be better informed as we move forward in this work.
Yes, absolutely. And for us to learn from you and become better informed as well. So thank you. Appreciate that. All right. So now what we're going to do is kind of just get some initial updates. Some of you started to do that, but we want to maybe just get others as well to kind of share what it is.
Russ?
Yes.
No, we need to move on to the rest of the agenda. The sharing is going to be later.
No,
Sorry
but we said, no, I think we had a piece which was any other updates to report regarding CoReq partnerships,
Yeah, we did that and nobody typed anything into the chat. So we finished that part.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I didn't think I requested that from people. I know I requested look at the list, but I didn't know if we really had people express off the top what they had going on, because we have until 12 or
12:10.
No, 10:25 to do that.
I see. Okay. I'm sorry.
Am I right?
I did think we finished because we had asked, but yeah, let me
Well,
put it back up. So my
maybe
apologies.
Well, just in case there are people here who
Sure.
not expressed what they have going on in simple form, right? Just an overview.
Believe it or not, Russ and I are well rehearsed on this. We did it yesterday, but it's Friday and it snowed yesterday, so it happens. Okay,
right.
Let me get back to sharing here.
Yeah, I don't think you need to share. I think at this, the document,
Okay.
Lesley, I think it's just basically understanding, was there anyone else that had an overview, just a quick statement about something that they've been involved in? We can go deeper later, which we plan to do. I just wanted to make sure if there was anything else that people had up front that you wanted to let people know about, that you had the chance to do that. Did we miss anyone? And it sounds as if we're good.
Yeah. And I think people put things in the chat, so that's probably why I was thinking they had already covered it, like Jan May.
That's great. And thank you, Jan May, for joining us, because we'll be hearing from you as well. That'd be great later on. All right. Well, there you go, Lesley. I think you're ready to jump into your portion. Please introduce yourself. That will be great.
Sure. Actually, I'm going to stop for a minute just so I can see people. Yeah, it's good to see everyone here. We have people from prior years, and it's good to see you back. I hope everyone had a good summer. And of course, Matt, you know I'm going to call you out here. Matt was one of the very first colleagues I worked with when I joined Minnesota State. I was there for 18 years. I was what was called the director of IMS Learning, which was our instructional management system, D2L, within the system. But really, I worked in many, many aspects of online learning. But the main thing that I did there really was facilitating system level groups, not unlike what Matt is on the steering committee. So we put together many experimental pilot groups, all kinds of things to enhance teaching and learning, with students, sort of a lot of professional development. Anyway, I retired 5 years ago, and I have been consulting part-time with Russ on this. Excuse me. Yeah, it is our 5th year. So we call this passion work. There's no question, anything we can do to really improve student success, I think is what we're about, as well as the instructor and faculty experience going through all of this. So this group you'll hear in a minute is largely about sharing and sharing practices. So it's good to be here and good to welcome new folks. I always throw this in as well. I was adjunct faculty for 24 years. I still do it on sort of a pinch hitting basis, but I solidly taught every semester at Metro State for 24 years. And now I've been teaching with Mankato State, and all online because that seems to be my skill set. So yeah, that's it. Anyway, I'm going to move on to, give me a second. There we go. The share button keeps moving around from the ellipses to the main menu. Okay. So we have some updates here, and for those of you who are new, we are gonna, on the second bullet, I'll give a very brief background of this affinity group. So if you're not following or tracking, I also make sure I leave time for any questions. Just type your questions in the chat. But because I'm on full screen here with the slide, I'm going to ask Carly or Russ to monitor the chat and just stop me if there are any questions that come in. Okay. Anyway, for those of you who are with adult education, the Learning Advocacy Network and who they are. So I'm going to give a brief session update, and then I'm going to go through the rest of these bullets. I'm going to finish the largest section of this is our conversation with Anthony Miller, who Matt just mentioned. Anthony is the system director for Minnesota State's P20 Student Success Unit, and Russ and I have been in conversations with him since he started in his position. And I would say, as Minnesota State's P20 system director, because he's now permanent, we were dealing with a lot of interim. He's been very engaged with us and really open to and understanding the role that ABE folks can play in partnering with the colleges. As we're moving off of the DevEd partnership and into a CoReq partnership. So you'll hear more. And then, Matt, you can keep me honest if I say anything that's not correct. So, okay. So Russ and I have been presenting every summer at the Summer Institute of the Literacy Action Network. We always were presenting on DevEd and ABE partnerships. And this last year and this year, we switched over to MnState's move to CoReq and what that might look like in terms of partnerships. We had a great session overall. It was 80 folks were in attendance. Most of them were not involved directly in either DevEd or in CoReq teaching, but the number of people attending indicated the interest in the topic. So we were pleased to be there. So this is the part about a very, very brief history of this affinity group. Russ already mentioned what happened is Russ and I were hired initially by the Northwest Consortium because there was one really successful DevEd ABE partnership up there. And that group was really, the consortium up there was really hoping that these partnerships could expand in the northwest part of the state. Well, what we did initially, Russ and I, is we went around trying to figure out how many partnerships were there and where were they. And we ended up talking to some folks like Anoka Ramsey has been having a partnership with Metro North, ABE. We found a few others. And suddenly, through talking with people, there was a hunger to bring everyone together so they could share their stories. And so we did that. And we started the first one in late 2020. It was right at the height of COVID. But that first year, the membership grew to about 90. Since the change has happened from DevEd to CoReq, and a lot of these partnerships are kind of on hold now, we seem to have a solid right around 40 to 50 people who are consistently coming. And because we have 2 meetings, we had around 20 people yesterday and another 20 today. So that's sitting squarely right around 40, something like that. But what we know, is we've learned what we call the good story, the additional skills that ABE can bring to partnerships, in terms of English, math, study skills, all the skills that support students in significantly and hopefully increasing pass rates, especially in the DevEd courses. And now the conversations are of course, can the partnerships can they significantly help in this CoReq model? Now, as far as sponsorship goes, originally it was sponsored by the Northwest Consortium, but MDE, the ABE unit, they've been part of this group the whole time. Julie Dinkow, who is the director, I think, of that ABE unit at MDE, attends these meetings. She attended yesterday. And that group has been interested in sponsoring, at least funding these affinity group meetings. And then 2 years ago, we had a matching grant from Minnesota State, their innovation grant round. So we were able to expand the work quite a bit more. We put together resources, including a DevEd ABE partnership. It was a study, not a study guide, a toolkit. And I'm going to show you later in the meeting when we wrap up where you can find some of those resources. Now we're sponsored strictly by MDE, and it's enough to sponsor these 3 meetings, each during the year. 6 meetings, but it's 3 times the affinity group will meet. And the focus of the group significantly shifted in 2024, and now we're focusing strictly on Minnesota State's move to CoReq, and I think most of you are aware of that, and that's why you're here. The affinity group composition, our intention is always to have kind of an equal amount of people from Minnesota State relative to adult education. It tends to lean heavier usually in ABE adult education, but we're always pleased. I mean, there's Matt, there's Jan May, there's a number of people yesterday as well. We reach out equally with, our kind of, if you will, marketing of this group. We put posts in both, in both the the ABE side as well as the Minnesota State side. I do want to mention it's voluntary attendance. There's absolutely no official bargaining unit appointments. This is just a voluntary affinity group. Come if you want to come, discuss if you want to discuss. So that's the introduction to that group. I'll stop for a minute. Any questions there? Because I'm going to move on now to the CoReq, their work plan, the Minnesota State's work plan, as well as our conversation with Anthony. But any questions in the chat? I can pull that up for a minute.
Well, there was one question from Cigna regarding CEUs, if possible, and I indicated back to her privately, and it's of interest to all of you to know that you will be getting a survey next week. It's very brief, and then following that, for those of you interested in CEUs, you'll have access to those. So I thought I'd just bring that up.
Great. Okay. Oh, okay. Thanks, Russ. She's a transition specialist with MDE. Great. So yeah, this is the implementation plan, and we've chatted with Anthony Miller enough to know that it's still a very relevant and current update of this document, I guess, this sort of synopsis. So the move to CoReq started, as many of you know, really about a year and a half ago. A memo came out, but last year was the year that all of these groups sprung up, and there was a call made out to the bargaining units and to Minnesota State leadership for different people to form 3 faculty discipline work groups, as well as serve on the steering committee. I believe this, and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's still called the Dev Ed Steering Committee, as opposed to a CoReq steering committee. And I'm not monitoring the chat, so, but in any case, last year when these groups were spun up, they were in phase 1, and the groups just got started working in spring. I think started in March. And so they've been working very hard now in the fall. And from everything we've heard, I'll talk about it in a minute, they've really gotten through their initial charge, which was to develop an initial set of recommendations. And I'll talk about that in a minute. The phase 1 is really not so much about the actual curriculum design as it is about setting some common parameters. And I'll talk about what some of those parameters look like in a minute. There's some IE words there, but I'm going to go into it a little bit deeper in a couple slides. The intent is to create some consistency around the system. Phase 2, the work is going to move to the campuses, and that's where they'll take a lot of the recommendations, but they have to work on a number of things at the campuses. If the credits are changing from college level courses to CoReq, what will the impact be on registration? How will advisors need to advise the students differently if there's no longer Dev Ed courses? So there's a lot of work at the campuses that will have to be figured out next year. And there is a goal, according to Anthony, that all CoReq courses, that all campuses will be ready to launch CoReq courses by the fall of 2027, so September of 2027. So that still gives them a couple of years to do the planning locally. So here are the pieces of information that Anthony provided to us. We met with him October 16th. Of course, the steering committee continues to meet, and we'll hear from Matt about that. The work groups, 3 of them, English, reading, and math, they did do their work. They're fleshing out more of the parameters around this would be offered. And again, I'll talk about some of those parameters in a minute. Anthony indicated that the groups have been very open-minded, not, rushing into one model or one piece of a recommendation without researching thoroughly other national resources. I know that they have leaned heavily on the CUNY's START program. For those of you who are interested in it, just put that into a Google search and it'll pop up right away. They are asking this question, he said, because this has been a concern of the Affinity group all last year. This concern came up over and over, still will come up this year, which is what about those students who are not, really at, say, even a 4th grade math level? How are they expected to, pass this CoReq course when so much developmental elements are needed for skills? But they are asking the question, how do we build this thing? How do we launch this thing without replicating the same issues, but just in a different format? And I think this was really eye-opening. Excuse me. We heard from Anthony several times, actually, that the work groups are asking, because they already know about the value of ABE instructors that have been embedded in their courses, like for Dev Ed courses. How can we have an ABE instructor embedded in our CoReq course? So we think for those of you who are here and not yet in a partnership, either at the college or in ABE, it's really a perfect time to see if there's an appetite to form a partnership. So we're hoping those conversations will take place this year if they haven't already. We have heard that in some cases, ABE is at capacity in their particular region and may not be able to offer more instructors or more instructor time. But again, if the conversation hasn't happened, we're really encouraging you to do so. So the goal, he said, I already mentioned, to have some core similarities, some consistency, drawing from the national studies, but still allowing for some needed flexibility at each college. This was a sort of a big piece, and yesterday the group talked about it. The work groups are not looking at placement or cut scores. Instead, they're saying, how do we work with any student that comes to us? So we did hear some disappointment yesterday that was the case. And the disappointment, of course, surrounds the fear that the students performing at the lowest skill level, how is it possible that they'll be able to make it through this CoReq course? And we heard from Anthony that the wraparound supports will happen more in the steering committee. In phase one, he said, what do we need to stand this model up? Phase two, how do we support it? So let's see. The work groups made these parameter recommendations this fall. They came up with some common parameters, each of the work groups, apparently, probably customized by their discipline. Matt would know more. And the survey window closed October 25th. The request to have all staff and all faculty throughout the entire MnSCU system, I still call it MnSCU, Minnesota State, was sent to senior campus leadership. So we will stay in touch with Anthony in order to see how much he's able to reveal. We suspect he may not be able to reveal a lot of things until these recommendations are tweaked. The work groups are going to tweak them based on the feedback. It'll be sent up to the steering committee, we heard, and from there, we're guessing, just like all other recommendations, it needs to go completely up through, perhaps through governance channels, but also up through senior level leadership levels. So that is about it for the update. I have one more piece to share. The hope is to complete phase one still by the end of this fall semester. Anthony said of course, that's the goal. You know, it might need another month or two to work its way through. And then hopefully by spring, things will be sent to the campuses so that they can begin phase two. And then looking ahead, you know, I think Russ asked him the question, are some campuses jumping on this already, even though there's, you know, this 3-4 year timeline? And he said, certainly some campuses might jump on it right away when the recommendations come out, especially those who've been piloting courses or even teaching CoReq for a number of years. But he said a number of them, probably the lion's share, will need the full 2 years to do their planning before launching. And then the parameters, this is kind of what we've been able to discern, I think, from our conversations with Anthony. I've been able to kind of take some notes and put it together. They're looking at things like, what is the definition of a CoReq course? You know, is it to be an instructor-led course as opposed to a lab or self-paced modules? How will the content be back mapped to ensure relevant support and skills are addressed in the CoReq model? How are the CoReq courses linked to college level courses so that the choices are intentionally linked, that the students are intentionally linked between these pairs of courses, if that makes sense? And there are a number of staffing. Should there be one teacher teaching both the CoReq developmental support portion who's teaching the college level, or should there be two? Well, in the case of a partnership, you can imagine both the ABE instructor and the faculty member will figure out what their respective roles will be. And class size is another one. What is the ideal size? He said that they're looking at putting a 50% cap on for the CoReq course so that it would be half the size of the linked college level course. So that's a whole lot. That is, I think that's it for the updates. What I want to do before I just open it up quickly for questions is last year, Russ and I put this together. We ran it by the Affinity group and we fleshed it out. So many of you might remember it. And Carly, if you're able to grab this, or I can do it. It's also in the Google shared drive. If you could grab the link, the idea, or you know what, maybe I'll just show it. Sorry, I can just present it here. Unable to connect. Well, that's not going to help. Give me a second. Here, let me get out of full screen share. Sorry about this for 1 second. The reason we're bringing this document up is for those of you in, here we go. Those of you in adult education, if you haven't formed a partnership yet, this is a valuable talking piece that you could use. It was put together again by all the Affinity group members. It's all of the skills that ABE can bring to the table and hopefully puts to rest some of the fears, certainly about credentialing, how skilled are you in teaching, and which, the fact that you're not teaching content, but that you bring some of the other wraparound skills to the table. So I'm going to conclude there and stop sharing, and I can grab that link if you want. But any questions on that before I stop my portion and then we move on? That was a lot. Okay, I'll grab that link and put it in.
Yeah, and I would just comment, every question or comment is a great one. Yeah. So if you're even new to this and you are puzzled by something, ask it. We're here to sort of make sure that you have a really crisp understanding about what Lesley went through or what this is all about. So happy to respond to anything.
Okay, well, I hope it wasn't a big snooze or pieces of information you already knew, but we want to make sure we're staying current and bringing all the latest information to you. So, okay. Russ, I think this is where we are opening it up for any steering committee or faculty work group committee.
Yeah, I think that's the exciting piece for us, especially today. Because we do have some folks in the room with us that are more intimately involved in this. And so I think maybe what we could do is ask Matt to tell us a little bit more, start with the steering committee and give us a sense of the sort of the reason for the steering committee. What is the purpose, and what are you to achieve, and what's the timeline for that, Matt? Because I've heard that this group that's been assembled is going to be in place for a while. So if you could tell us a little bit more, that'd be great.
Sure. I mean, Min-State is a big bureaucracy and things never move very quickly. So that's particularly significant changes like this. So I think the timeline that Lesley put out there is probably what we're still looking at. So, seeing this stuff kind of ready to go by 2027. As was said, we kind of just got through our first set of recommendations that the 3 work groups, one on writing or English, one on reading, one on math, had come up with, and those were not the steering committee, but subgroups that were discipline-specific folks involved. And those went out, as she said, for comment, and we haven't seen the survey results because it just closed last Friday. But lots of things like, again, how many credits should be there? How does that work? I think maybe one of the big differences, we heard some talk here about course placement, and the English writing folks did not suggest that there needed to be sort of any floor, if you will, to get into that co-requisite course. Whereas the reading and the math folks did think that there was going to need to be some sort of continued placement. As a side note, there's an assessment for course placement committee that did a whole lot of work, came up and finished their work last spring, but that's been put on hold because of some legislative initiatives. So we'll be seeing where that goes probably next spring as well. So there is obviously a very close back and forth handshake relationship, if you will, between course placement and any kind of developmental education work, right? That's we don't have coursework to look at for a student typically, so we have to find some other way to decide where they should start their college careers, and that's always a difficult thing to do. There is no perfect way of doing that. So that's kind of where we are right now. I think that 2027 seems about right. Certainly, it isn't there isn't a lot of extra time built in there, and at least in my experience, Lesley can probably comment on this too, that we usually set ourselves up with somewhat optimistic timelines and expect perhaps that they might slip a little bit. So I'm very confident in saying it won't happen any sooner than that. And some thought that it may get pushed back a little bit from there as well. Just by the time it gets worked through, we have at least 2 different bargaining units: the 2-year college faculty, the 4-year college faculty. We have, but we also have MAPE folks that do advising. We have ASF people at the 4-year universities that do that work. That all needs to come together, and how this will actually be rolled out. And there's some big questions about how we do something system-wide when all of our institutions are still accredited individually. We are not one college or university. So in order to maintain our accreditation, we have to maintain that individual control over curriculum and how we do things. So that's
tricky. That's tricky business.
Tricky thing
Yeah.
that's going to have to be navigated. That doesn't slow down our work right now on how best to do co-requisite courses. So I think that's the question we're working on right now. How we actually implement them in our system is another big question, and that's going to require a lot of work as well, but very different work. So I don't know if I answered your questions or only made one.
Well, you did, Matt, but it's a real quick, if you could give a sense of when you say we with the steering committee, what does it consist of? Like who's involved?
Yep. So most of our system-wide committees in Min-State involve representation from the various groups that are there. So we do have formal bargaining units. So we have the MSCF, 2-year college faculty. So there's 5 of us. There's the 4-year university faculty. There's 5 of them. There's the we call it administrative and service faculty, ASF or MUSAF. They have some representation. MAPE, which is our statewide union of professional employees, covers all kinds of people in the state, but certainly a lot of advisors and people that do that kind of work, admissions counselors, that kind of thing on our 2-year college campuses in particular. They're heavily involved, a lot of people in our registrar's area. And then the myriad of groups of administrators, so campus administrators as well as
Deans. Yeah.
So I think the Dev Ed Steering Committee probably is close to 40 people total. Do they all show up? And I shouldn't, before I go any further, there is certainly seats available for students, both from the 2-year colleges and the 4-year universities. We struggle with getting them to actually participate. As you can imagine, that's just, their lives are very different than us, who this is our job. This is not their job. This is definitely a sidelight for them. So I definitely do try to include them where we can.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. That's great. So we may ask a little bit more of you, but let's just shop around. Let's just shop around a little bit. Jan May in particular, anyone else that indicated they were involved. Maybe you could give us an update of your role, because I think Jan May, I believe, are you both steering committee and faculty work group?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us more. Yeah.
Okay. So the faculty group recently met just this week, and we are revising the recommendations based on the comments. So most of the people agree. I mean, not everybody agrees that the CoReq is an effective model to some extent. However, repeatedly, people have been pointing out for 30% of the students, I don't know where the 30% came from, this has not been effective. And which group of people constitute this 30%? right? We all know students from diverse backgrounds and socioeconomically disadvantaged, English as second language students, and immigrant students. The big controversy, challenge, or to put it another way, is that the recommendation is saying that there shouldn't be any floor, which is a big topic for last week's town hall meeting as well. So effectively, that would mean students who are at college level or even beyond college level will be in the same classroom if they are in the CoReq class, right, together. The extraordinary amount of work on faculty members and also the big academic gaps between students from less advantaged backgrounds or socioeconomically marginalized already, and all the other confounding factors. How are they going to survive? And what is going to be the impact on their first year experience? We talk about the first year momentum. And then if they don't pass the class or they have to repeat the CoReq, which is effectively going to be first demoralizing, second, waste their money and time. And a third, there is nothing to talk about first year momentum, right? So the biggest concern for a lot of people is the no floor language. I was part of the work group, but because of, sometimes we're not there, and then the language was put into the document and recommendation. And how to move forward, I don't know. That means we need to think about placement. However, at this time, the placement committee's work has been stopped because of disagreement between the committee and also Min State. I just want to share a little bit about my experience with students. I had a student last summer. She was tested with a 6th grade reading level in the fall by a reading colleague of mine. So again, the timeline is that she started the summer co-requisite 8-week class. And then, of course, she didn't pass, although I had wonderful tutors who worked with her diligently. The problem is that her reading level was so low at that time. Then in the fall, I had her tested and then placed her into English 930, which is the reading class at Century offered. Not many students were in that class. Actually, over the years, we have lost our most of the faculty members in the reading program, which is happening throughout the state. And then she couldn't take that class because of financial reasons. And then in the spring, she took that class and was able to bring her reading level significantly up. And then throughout the whole time, she worked with me, worked with my tutors, worked with the reading instructor, and also worked with her trill advisors. So that was a collaborative effort from almost every aspect of her life at Century. And now I'm at the point of passing her for my Composition 1, which is an extended journey or a detoured journey we created for her, right? Because Century doesn't have the structure anymore. We don't have a prerequisite standalone English writing class. And her reading level was very low as well. So think about the students like her who were born in this country, grew up in this country. However, due to a lot of reasons, socioeconomically, linguistically, and also other compounding factors like learning disabilities, all of that, or neurodivergent needs, to put it in another way. When we design programs or any program, think about the impact of the one-size-fits-all approach. As diverse as this country is and want to be, I just, as a classroom instructor, I just don't understand why this is happening. And I think honestly, I'm sharing this with you from the bottom of my heart. I think this is the most inequitable practice, actually, trying to do it with the one size fits all approach. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Yan Mei, for your update. It's appreciated. And my sense is that you're conveying those feelings, these thoughts to your peers within the system. And thank goodness that you are. that's all I can say, right? Because
Thank you.
we do have a lot of students that yes, it would be wonderful to have them ready for that CoReq experience. And the question is, how are we going to do that collectively? And so that's why this partnership discussion is really tantamount at this stage, is to say, what role could partners provide, or provide assistance to some of these students that are in this kind of dire need. So thank you, Yan Mei. Are there others from the faculty or steering group that I missed that would like to comment at this stage? Okay, hearing none, I think this is our opportunity now to open up our discussion. Our people, if people have an interest to comment or ask Yan Mei or Matt any questions about what they had to say with their updates or with their information, that's a chance. The other also is, the intent of this is to take a closer look at what folks are doing in some of these classes where partnership is existing, and to give the group an update about them. So what we're going to kind of get at is, please share how the teaching or planning is going. Are there sticking points, success stories? What have you learned, right? So in addition to that, for those of you not in CoReq partnerships, are you aware of any adult education or college reach out?
This is,
yeah.
All right, there we go. Okay.
All right. So I think we're muted. So for those of you that aren't in a relationship now, have you been approached, or have you approached people at the college? So that's valid as well, because we're at this really important stage of making sure we know about each other's resources and talents, and be able to bring those to bear for these students that are in need, especially. So who would like to get us started? Could you get us started perhaps, or Eric, to tell us a little bit more about the DCTC stuff that you're involved in, and then we'll kind of open it up from there. Darcy, you are muted.
There we go. I'm happy to talk about it, but I'm not really sure how much I have to say. Right now, what I'm doing is, it's a study table. So students come in when they need help with their homework. And there's two staff from DCTC that are there, and then I'm there. And students come in with different needs, different requirements. My CAD skills aren't so great. In fact, I've never taken a CAD class, so the CAD students are pushed along. But there's other, there's people with papers that they're writing. They need help, with the grammar or content of the papers. So I'm helping them with that. I'm also doing just kind of a pull-out group from there, just doing a grammar focus lesson every time that I go in. And that usually takes, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes to go over whatever. It's a different one that I do it each week. So there's a schedule. I like doing that part because it kind of gives me, this is what you're supposed to do. I think that's the biggest piece, is figuring out, what am I supposed to do when I'm there, and what are the staff from DCTC, I think it's been kind of there's probably been an agreement. Eric probably could speak of this probably better than I can, but I'm assuming there was something agreed. But I wasn't part of that conversation, and I don't think the people I'm working with are necessarily part of that conversation. So we were just kind of put together and, all right, make this work. And so we're kind of doing the best we can with that.
Yeah, I understand that. And we all got to start somewhere, right? So it's all
Exactly.
about relationship building. It's
Mhm.
all about trying to find our way. So kudos to you, Darcy, for your spirit going into that. And I'm sure much will be learned in that process. Eric, I think you've got something that's happening. It's more CoReq sort of based in the algebra area. Is that accurate?
Yep. And Lisa, our teacher here is Lisa's on the
Okay.
call.
So
So we
yeah.
started that last year, but last year I don't think it was officially a CoReq. It was more of they just added more time to the class. This year they had the CoReq. One little glitch this fall was that in the registration, the students could sign up just for the algebra part and not the CoReq. So CoReq is a little smaller than we hoped. I think they've got that fixed for
ironed
spring.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But otherwise, Lisa could talk more about
Yeah.
that. We also have Mary Elsenheimer, Grady Elsenheimer on this call too, and she's doing a new partnership with the CoReq for writing.
Oh, that's great. So let's hear from both of them. Lisa, if you could give us an update, that would be great. And then we'll move on to, I'm sorry,
Mary.
Mary. Thank you.
All right. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Lisa. And we
Oh.
can see you fine too. That's great.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I'm working with the college algebra class, and so the regular teacher is on sabbatical this year, and so I think that was part of the little mix up there, maybe with the registration this year, that students were not required to take the additional credits. And so we only ended up with 4 students for those additional hours, and there are a number of students that didn't sign up for that I wish were in that section of it. So
And because you can tell, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So just this last week or two, I've changed my schedule so that I can be there during some of the regular class hours when some of those students are there. So hopefully in this last half of the semester, I can get to help them a little bit more, but it's not going to be that way for the future. They're going to they have to opt out of taking that additional time, rather than this semester they could opt into it. And so they'll have to get permission from the instructor if they don't want those additional hours, which I think will be a huge help in the future.
That's great. So it's early to tell, right?
Yes.
Any anecdotal sort of things to share about what you've noticed thus far, or what have you?
Just kind of doing what I can there. So yeah.
Feeling your way, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting because it is new for all of us too, and then to work with a new person and try to, figure out a new path is, it's made it interesting, but hopefully, for the next semester, I'll come in with some new ideas and try something else. So yeah.
Do you have some design time for the faculty and you to communicate and coordinate a bit outside of the classroom? Is that built in, or is that maybe something that needs to be attended to down the line?
Yeah, and I guess it's more of we met a couple times during the summer, and then otherwise it's just a text email kind of thing.
Right.
A few minutes after class, this is how it's going, sort of a thing.
Okay.
Next semester, it's going to be another instructor again, and then back to the regular person next fall again. So it's with a different person each time. It's making it a little bit more of a
challenging. Yeah.
Yeah, I just jump in that I know there's instructor they worked with last year who had been at DCD for many years. Lisa worked closely with him, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we did have good results for passing rates went up significantly. compared to the year before with the extra support. So they were very happy. We were all happy about that.
Yeah, and hence why you're invited back, right? I mean,
Right, yeah. So I
yeah,
am anxious to
yeah.
see how it goes this semester. Just it is, I am working with a much smaller group of students though. So anyway,
Yeah.
we'll see. It'll be interesting to compare.
Yes. Okay, that's great. Well, thank you. And how about Mary? What have you got to share with us?
Hi, can you
Hi,
hear
Mary.
me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Wonderful.
So I am teaching the English Essentials class or CoReq with another instructor at DCTC. And we're still feeling our way along, I have to say, what my role is, what her role is. It's some of the students that are in the English composition class are in this class, but not all of them. It wasn't required.
Mhm.
So it's a new class, and the instructor is still feeling her way, just kind of how to, you know, how to support the composition class.
Mhm.
So it's been a little bit of a challenge um, as far as planning, um, finding the time, but also um, just dividing up what we're each going to do in the classroom.
Right.
Um, and I think part of that could be just a new class, you know, figuring out each week what might happen in the class. And so it's a little bit unknown what's going to work for the students themselves to
Okay.
support them.
Yeah.
I have worked at with DCTC before in the automotive program. Um, and with an instructor for the soldering program. And those were a little bit different in the sense where I had a specific role, teaching basic skills um, for each of those groups. This one is a little bit more open-ended,
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah, it makes sense. So Mary, what I would offer to you and to Lisa and anyone else here that's sort of in this new space is we do have materials from a toolkit that we put together, quite extensive toolkit that if you haven't had access to it yet, we should get you access to share also with your faculty folks that could be useful to you as you're sort of trying to feel your way. It might help you to anticipate better about, what are those sort of things that you should be thinking about together to kind of bring things a little bit more in alignment, just some tips and tricks and things like that. So we'll make sure that we get you access to that.
Okay, great.
All right.
Appreciate that.
You bet. You take care. All right. Anyone else to provide some updates? We have just a couple more minutes. I think we could carve up some more based on what people would like to share. Anyone else that would like to talk a little bit about the partnership that you're involved with? You can either raise your hand or just jump right in. Okay. Well, that's just fine. I think we've gotten to the end of this piece right on the numbers. And so at this stage, I think we'll hand it off to Lesley.
Sure.
And Lesley will bring us to the finish line.
Well, I did post the link for the toolkit, and actually
thank you.
I'm going to show that page anyway. That's part of our wrap up. But there was one question, and I don't know if Jan May has left, but the question was regarding the the floor. Signe posted this. Did the reading and math groups recommend specific levels or just recommend that there be minimum levels? Matt, would you
Do
know that?
Yeah, so that's out of scope for the developmental folks. That would be an
Right.
assessment for course placement
Placement.
question, and this is where we're struggling with this course placement group's work being put on hold and not moving forward. It may get to the point where to move things along, we're going to have to make that recommendation and come up with some ideas. But the course placement group was working on completely redoing how we do course placement, essentially moving away from what we've used for years, which was AccuPlacer, and moving to more of a probably high school GPA, perhaps some and on the math side in particular, looking at what coursework they maybe did in high school, that kind of thing. So, and so that's why it's kind of tough to even suggesting a floor right now would probably not help out because the actual metrics that we're looking to use are probably going to change quite dramatically.
Yeah.
So a
So-
follow-up question. Oh, sorry. Is the course placement group sort of charged to work on this somehow in partnership with the steering committee? I mean, are they, or at least with the CoReq in mind? In time for that fall of 2027? I know that smile. By the way, I adore Matt. I mean, we worked on so many projects together, and it's like we're right back in the saddle again. Yeah.
I unfortunately don't control that.
Yeah, right.
The fact of the matter is the course placement stuff started well before COVID. Then with COVID, everything kind of fell apart and we kind of brought it back again. So it kind of predates all of this co-requisite stuff. So that really wasn't even on the radar screen when they were talking about it. What did go through, I can tell you what was in that because it was all up for public comment and everything, was that assessment for course placement committee was really looking, what do you need to do if you want to go directly into college level courses? Anything below that would put you in developmental courses, but where and how far down you go or where that is, if it's and I'm just gonna make up numbers, whether it's a 22 or a 28 or a 32, would then be left up to each college to make that decision to have those gradations within the developmental set of
sequence or whatever, right?
Yeah. So that was kind of where we left it last spring. So perhaps the Dev Ed group would comment on that. I don't know, but at this point, it's left up to a college by college,
Thanks.
university by university kind of decision. Sorry, talk too much sometimes.
No,
that's
you're
perfect.
a valuable asset here today, Matt. Thanks. Well, yeah, we do have just a couple wrap-up things. This is resources. I know a lot of people have left already, but let me share the slides. Yeah, here it is. So those of you who attended last year know that we have a website presence, Atlas, through the funding that MDE provides, has been able to put up a website for us. We provide the content, they do all the heavy lifting for the pages. But it's newly rebranded this year. Instead of it being called the Dev Ed ABE Partnerships, we're now calling it College ABE Partnerships. And let me take you into that page. Here it is. Okay. It's in the Atlas website. And here you can scroll through the background. And we have kept all of the Dev Ed stuff as well. The history of it. Here's the toolkit. And as you know, we had actually a symposium a couple years ago. We haven't archived this yet. We thought there might be people who could still be interested in it. There are some CoReq sessions that were presented at this symposium that we held. And then the other place I wanted to take you into, if you're not part of this, this is our sort of internal affinity group. I see the title still says DevEd, but it's our CoReq place now for internal membership. It's where you can access the agenda. We'll put the recordings up. Actually, you'll all receive an email from Russ in a couple weeks with the recording links. But this is not an open site, so if you're not on this OneNote site, just shoot me your email address, put it in the chat right now, and I'll make sure you get into this group as well. It may not be something you need to go into all the time, but if you want to see when the upcoming meetings are, or if there's any information from prior meetings that you miss, this is where you can get it. Okay? So, and then I think, I'm trying to think if there's another slide. Yeah, that's the OneNote site. I can put that link in. Well, actually, you have to give me your email before I would give you your link. So, okay. Russ, I'm gonna turn it over to you. Other than my saying thank you, everybody. It's been a rich conversation today. Uh, I mean, these affinity group meetings, I don't want to say, we don't have any specific target for each of them other than to keep following up with what's happening in this progress, that MnState is making. But we always want to welcome your ideas. So when there's going to be an evaluation form that comes out so that you can get your CEU, but we welcome ideas for future meetings as well. So Russ, anything you'd like to say to close up here?
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement, Lesley, that today was really a rich conversation. It will be the video that we'll be sharing, I think, with our audience probably here. So that'll come out, as Lesley said, shortly. So we just thank you for your candor. It's really important to have that. We really want to make this work for students, and yet it has its challenges, and we certainly heard about those yesterday, those challenges and concerns. So let's keep working together. Let's keep making good things happen on behalf of students. And our next opportunity to gather will be January 30th or the 31st. Same time, same channel, same time, same channel. And so we will see you then. In the meantime, be watching for further communication about the progress that we're all collectively making. We thank you so much for your attendance.
Thank you.